good day, good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. How you doing? This is MCM, and this is the podcast called You're Probably Right. Now, first I must say that this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. I mean, if you feel like it, you can take whatever I say as truth and hold me to it, or you can understand that there's opinion, there's conjecture, there is some truth for sure, but you got to take the good with the bad, and even when you take the good and the bad, you got to take it with a grain of salt. I don't profess to know everything, nor do I profess to be a professor of anything, of any sort. So, cancel culture, you can come if you want. I know how these things work. For a while, you get left alone. And then if you are so lucky and unlucky, you become popular enough that somebody will want to cancel you if you don't have the right set of values according to society or the right ideology. So as I said, and I will say it again, for every single episode of You're Probably Right podcast, starring myself, MCM, nothing is supposed to be taken for more than what it is. And my podcast is for, as I said before, entertainment purposes only. If you learn something that is true, then great. But don't hold fast to anything that I say. You can look it up for yourself, and you can divide truth from fiction. You can ask somebody, you can research it yourself, or whatever. Okay? I think that's a long enough disclaimer. I mean, I was talking for 2 minutes, right? Okay. So I'm going to go through a little list of things today. So many debate and discourses about so many different things these days. But one thing I can tell you, from experiencing YouTube shorts to looking at TikToks, I realize, and better men than myself have realized, that it's destroying us. I can't say it's destroying the youth of today or the children of today or the children of yesteryear. I can honestly tell you that all these short form videos that are meant to hold your attention and then let it go, and then hold your attention and let it go, and keep you swiping or clicking past something to find something else, something better. It's a sad state that we are in. And my advice to you after trying it myself, depending on your personality, I would say let it go, because it's probably destroying you in ways that you haven't even figured out. You know, something inside of me a long time ago when it comes to social media had me do something that I've heard people encourage other people to do. Every once in a while, you need to take yourself off of it. Even if you're listening to nothing but scriptures with music behind them or whatever it is, too much of that is not good. At some point, you got to put it down, put the cell phone down, and go and interact with people. Put the cell phone down and actually read the scriptures, the whole scriptures, for yourself. But doing it in a way where you're just having somebody else read you something in a short form or in a snippet of scripture or message because it suits their story of the day is not good. And I'm sure if you take a little time out to figure out what I'm saying, you can totally understand what I mean. But I can honestly tell you that I used to be a person who would be on an app called Google+. And many people like myself thought it was the future of social media, and it was just so amazing how you could post these things and so many people could listen or read what you say or watch what you had put down, and I thought it was so amazing. But what I realized for myself, now you may be different, so maybe someone like me would understand, and maybe I'm only talking to a little part of the population that listens to me, but I realized that I needed to literally delete the app off of my off of my iPad or my iPhone to take a break, because what would happen to me is I would be watching videos or watching, not even videos, because sometimes it would just be a post, but I'll be looking at posts and I'd be like, okay, well, I just finished doing this, and this, and I'm home from work, and I'm just going to look at Google Plus for a little bit. So I would look and I'd say, okay, I'm going to get off in 10 minutes. And what I kept finding out is that when you're on the post, the last thing you're looking at is the clock. And generally what would happen is when I finally looked at the clock, it was at least twice, if not 2 to 4 times longer than I thought I was going to be on. And then I'm pissed off that my whole evening is gone. And it would happen so many times, even videos. YouTube was the same thing at the beginning, and then I started watching only long form things. So maybe an interview, maybe a podcast, or I would watch something on animals. But there was many things that I was gaining from YouTube. There was a lot of learning. Now, yes, you could get stuck in the nonsense, and you could, like when it was out, look at vines or fails, people falling down or amazing sounds of this, that, and the other, and you'd be sitting there watching them, and it would do something. For me, it would almost be like I was becoming dizzy, because you'll watch like a video of fails for say 50 minutes, and the thing is, if they were vines or just short form videos, you're watching videos shot by 40 different photographers, and sometimes the person holding the camera would be the person falling down or failing, and the cameras weren't being held properly, and I was finding myself like disturbed. There'd be like a lot of funny things, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of funny things to see on those Vine cuts, but because they were filmed by so many people, the point of view was always different, and the level of steadiness with the camera was always different. So it started upsetting me. Like I feel uneasy at the end of watching them, and I'd have to just cut them off, even though I was so intrigued to see what was the next video. At some point I'd be like, this is making me dizzy, I need to get off. Well, with say TikTok or the shorts on YouTube, it's like they give you 30 seconds, they give you 17, optimal is like 15 to 17 seconds of some craziness. And you got to watch the next thing. Or worse than that, you have to pause because you're wondering what happened before all the action. So you'd have to pause it, and then you'd have to go to a Google search, and you have to type in what was happening on your screen. And if you were a pretty good at doing that, then you could watch the whole video, see the whole story if it was posted on something like YouTube. And my point is, it's just a waste of time. And I know many of you, you're sitting there, you understand exactly what I mean. Sitting there, even watching YouTube videos, there's only a certain amount that you should watch per week, per day. You know, too much exposure to somebody else's stuff, point of view, stories, narrative, ideologies. You know, I watch a lot of lectures, but watching too much of that stuff, just coming in all the time, you start to lose yourself. You lose your time, you lose your productivity, you lose your desire to do other things that you're supposed to do, and you become like a walking, hardly talking zombie. So I would honestly say, if I could give advice, which as a somewhat educated person I've been told, is that it's never my job to give advice. But in this case, I'll honestly tell you, if you can resonate with what I'm saying, if what I'm saying is resonating with you, then I'm saying you might want to give your TikTok, your Instagram, your Twitter a break. If you find yourself, you put the phone down for 3 minutes and then you got to pick it up, or you're just constantly just checking for a new post or checking for a new like, it might be time for you to put it down. Because you're obviously, and maybe you want to do your search again, check out what dopamine is. And I guarantee you'll find out that you're getting dopamine hits from the videos, the clips. It's not even giving you long enough to really sit down and consider. I mean, when you sit down and consider these little clips that you watch, usually you have to watch them 4 or 5 times, pause them. What happened exactly right here? And that's all the information. There's no information. It's just buffoonery. That's what you get. At least here in North America. I can't speak for every other country. Of course, they say it's different in other countries. Anything you have ever said in the time of digital tape can be used against you. Remember this. So I think about my podcast now. I have listeners and a few regulars, as far as I know, because my podcast is being broadcast by somebody else and I am on a free platform. So the numbers may not be as high as they actually are. But one thing I do know is anything that I say on this podcast can one day come back and, as they say, bite me in the tail. If I become famous, if I become popular in some respect, if I get in trouble, I know, like most of you know, people start digging through the crates. You know, it's a term that people used to use about looking for old discovered music that many people used to be fond of, and they'll pull it back, and it could be some serious amazingness. So understand that if you get yourself in trouble, somebody's going to go looking for it. And you don't even have to be in trouble at this point. You can just be searched. If you're searchable, your podcast, your content. That's the new word these days, right? The content can be searched at any point, and worst things that could come out of you putting out your content is if you become an influencer in the way that society would rather you not become. then know that you'll be canceled, and snippets of what you have posted will most likely either be banned or at the same time used against you to manipulate the greater public into realizing or deciding that you're an idiot and you're spreading lies, or you're misogynistic, or you're a male chauvinist, or it could go obviously in different ways as far as the different types of people, different intersectionalities and demographics. If you are not the soup du jour, how do you say it? The soup du jour, the soup du jour, the soup of the day, then you could be canceled. And the reason why I say that is because, as I said, I don't like to timestamp things. It's because today the enemy might be men, and tomorrow might be women, or tomorrow, the day after, might be gay people or queer people or whatever, however you would like to state that. Again, this is life. And one thing I can honestly tell you about me is that I hate forced narratives. I don't think forced narratives are ever good. Forced ideologies, forced beliefs, I don't believe that they've ever been good for anyone, no matter what they've been. Like, from what I know of Christianity, let's pick on Christianity because I'm a Christian. Forcing people to adhere to Christian values without being a Christian is pointless. God doesn't need your help to build his church. You can be an example. You can witness to people about the love of God, what God has done for us. But should you chop children's hair off and force them into residential schools and say 12 Hail Marys and give them a paddling when they haven't memorized parts of the Bible the way you'd like them to, or their behavior isn't godly when they weren't raised that way, is not right. So no matter who has done it, doing it, it's not right. Forcing your narrative, your story on other people, your truths, as people like to say. And I made a mistake today, and I repeated that. And I used to think it was something. It made sense. And I remember, who was it? Charlemagne the God. He used to always say, I would rather just speak my truth or live my truth in front of everybody so that nobody else can do it. But what I've realized is there's no your truth. The truth is the truth. Now, just because you think it's the truth, it doesn't make it the truth. Now you can call it your truth. Yeah, well, it's the reality of what you did, or it's the reality of what you think, but that doesn't make it truth. So putting your in front of truth doesn't make it truth. Putting social in front of justice doesn't make it justice. Justice is just justice. You put anything before truth or anything before justice, and you're basically telling lies. It's not justice and it's not truth. Or it could be, but it's not necessarily truth, nor is it necessarily justice. That's probably a better way to put it. People care about in the society, I'll go back to it, fans and viewers. I can say whatever I want to say until it matters to someone else. Or I can say whatever I want to say until somebody else doesn't like it. So as I said, I have this podcast. At this point, I think I've done 72 to 73 episodes, and it's been mostly just me. Sometimes there's been snippets of sermons or interviews, or I had a conversation. One episode I had a conversation with one of my sons, and but for the most part, it's been me. So looking back on these many episodes, I tried to speak from an honest, open point of view. I can't say that I was always right, because that's not even close to being true. And that's part of the reason why I call my podcast You're Probably Right, because I figure that in the future, some things will stand the test of time better than other things that I've said. The things that I believe what will stand the test of time better than anything else that I've said is when I'm quoting the Bible. And I don't always quote the Bible. A lot of the time what I say is my own opinion from my own experience, from things that I've done, seen, felt, heard, witnessed, however you want to put it. And then sometimes I'll quote scriptures from the Bible. And I'm sure sometimes I've quoted it wrong for time's sake, and not having you sit there and listen to the beats while I try to get what I'm saying properly and perfectly. But as I said, I always encourage you to look up anything that I've said and see if it's true to you, or see if it's true. I'm not saying see what is true to you. No, you want to know what the truth is, period. One thing I will say also is I don't believe in this phenomenon, I'll call it, of deplatforming people from the internet. They've done it to people like Donald Trump. They've done it to people like, I can't remember what his name is, Rose, but he still had his website, but they took him off of YouTube. Then there's Alex Jones. They, for a while, tried to cancel Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan. They took Trump 100%. Yeah, they cleaned him off there. Oh, Andrew Tate, they pulled him off. And they've taken off, Twitter took off Jordan Peterson off, even though he had like 2 million followers, for what they took as attacks against the person because he refused to refer to them how they wanted to be referred to. Wrong or right, I'm tired of people telling other people how they have to think. Personally, I can say, sometimes it is upsetting when someone doesn't think the way I think about a particular thing, because I believe I'm looking at the thing from a truth perspective, leaving my isms alone and taking them out of the perspective of the situation. But this thing about forcing someone to do something that has been against everything that they have been taught, it just doesn't make any sense. Again, I hearken back to the days of indigenous people when they were taken out of the woods, per se, or out of their villages or out of their common living spaces and dragged into the church, supposedly. Those schoolhouses, those residential schools, and disciplined beyond belief, treated horribly, starved, beaten, killed. Yes, some were taught the proper way, but only if they bent their wills. But this thing that mankind has where they try to force their will on other people. It's ridiculous. I noticed one thing that people respect. I was saying to somebody just a while back, being at work, people will always respect other people's way of eating. Of course, unless you eat too much meat, then you'll just be a barbarian. But what I'm saying is, if you have a Jewish person or a person who practices Islam and they don't eat pork, no problem. We're ordering food for everyone, so we'll order you either your kosher meal or your halal meal or your veggie meal or whatever it is. No problem. We respect other people's dietary restrictions for whatever reason. But be a Christian and say that you do not support certain types of lifestyles, and they go to town with you. If you say, oh, I have friends or acquaintances or family members who live that lifestyle and I love these people and I care about these people. Some of these people are my favorite people. They'll look at it as a negative and say, yeah, that's like saying, if you're a white person, saying that some of my favorite people are black or my best friend's black, and look at it in a derogatory way. It's just people say it to let you know that they really don't have an issue with those people. Now, they may take issue or not want to put themselves in the situation where they have to partake in what the Bible clearly says they shouldn't partake in. Just do it that way, and people want to chop your head off. Aren't we allowed to follow our religion, our Bible, our God? Then why does it offend people? Well, it offends people because the majority of this world is under the power of the evil one. They're not children of God. So they're not going to be cool with you doing things that God would have you do. People saying, it's not against the Bible to go into a Hindu temple and meditate with them. I mean, don't you know that those temples, those synagogues, those shrines were built to honor other supposed gods? Don't realize that. And then there's these factions of supposed Christianity that say, no, it's okay if you do that in this denomination, or it's okay if you do that in that denomination, not realizing that it doesn't matter what denomination you're in. If you're calling yourself a Christian, a disciple of Christ, in the family of God, a believer, then it doesn't matter what denomination you're in. What does the Bible say about what you're doing? And the Bible is very clear. Jesus was very clear. People say he doesn't talk about certain lifestyles. No, he does. He lets you know that there is only one way to be in certain types of relationships. God made them man and woman. But if you decide to take yourself and act on your desires or your lusts or your wants, that's your choice. But don't force that on other people. Don't say that the Bible says it's okay to do whatever you want to do or whatever your sect wants to do. Don't try to make me believe that something that you used to try and take to disprove the Bible, called science, is telling you that there's only two sets. It's either you have this many or that many chromosomes, this and that. If you have this, you're that, and if you have that, you're that. So they're okay to bastardize and just try to disprove the Bible, but when it comes to people's bodily makeup and sexuality and all those things, then science needs to step aside. It's all about the humanities. Oh, the humanity. It's a wild place we're living in these days, I tell you. And I'm wondering, how long is it before society starts telling us that we can't teach our children our beliefs at our home? I mean, when did that start? Probably with Santa Claus. You know, you were looked on as a wacko if you didn't tell your kid that there was no Santa Claus and mom and dad are buying your presents, or you're looking at a wacko if you wanted to tell your kid that there's no Easter bunny or no tooth fairy. But lo and behold, what would happen if your child came and told little Susie that there's no Santa Claus and she's 7? Oh, you've destroyed it for everyone. Or you need to send your child out to go trick-or-treating to celebrate the Devil's Night, or Oh Halloween's Eve and all that stuff. And you are the bad person. Can I just live? Can I just practice my religion? Can't I just teach my child the way I want to? You're fighting to teach my kids about sexuality when they're 7, 5. Oh, be who you want. Today you're this, tomorrow. Why? Maybe that's what you want to do, but I don't get it why people are starting to have this thing where they think they can force it on you. Like I said before, it's not cool when the church does it. It's unnecessary. They think that they're helping God or something. They're not. Right. So exactly the same way. And I don't understand why two sets of people can't get both sides of an argument. It's kind of like these people with abortion. You know, they say women have their bodies, so it's her body, her choice. Right. Two people engaged in something, but it's one person's decision, although they're not responsible for making or creating that body that they live in. But one person out of the creator and the other person that they spent time with and did the acts with, one person has the decision. Okay, so fine, your body, your choice. Okay, so then if something happens between A and B decides to go ahead and have a B, then A can't say anything, and if B decides not to, A can't say anything. So then if B decides to have, say, a baby, then shouldn't A be able to say whether or not they want to support the child financially or not? Why? Why is only one person allowed to have a choice? And that's what an argument was. So all I'm saying is, I personally would rather live in a society that there can be actual dialogue, not snuffing out what somebody else's opinion is, not snuffing them out just because it doesn't support your argument or your ideology or your way of living or your lifestyle. I should be able to teach my kids my family values because they're from my family, in my family. And when they're wrong, if they are so wrong, chances are they're going to figure out that themselves along the way, or with, rubbing elbows with other people in society one day. I was listening to somebody the other day, I think it was Andrew Tate, and he was saying, you know what most guys want? Most guys want fitness, They want to have a good job where they make money, or they want to at least be able to make money, be in the position to be successful in that way. They want a beautiful wife, a nice car or more, maybe, a house, kids, all that stuff. But people look at things differently than that. They think they want other stuff. You don't have to take your time putting it down. It doesn't matter. Just live life. I can sit here singing all this time. What happened? Why'd you stop? Tired? So why don't you plug it in? You have the thing right there. Did you charge it earlier? Huh? So how long did it die? No, but I'm saying how long did the battery last? Was it charging all this time or no? When was it 100%? It was 100? So then something's wrong with the battery then. Oh boy. Let's see. Sometimes they give you these computers, and these computers have no life. So it just died on. So but that light was flashing though, right? I saw the light, that thing flashing in the middle. It always flashes? Yeah, that's my point. It gave you a hint. Oh, by the way, I'm about to die. Well, I saw it a long time. I was like, this thing is flashing. And you just kept playing. Kids and computers. Yeah, men have been feeling horrible. They have little small desires, and they're not being adhered to. They're being bastardized and put down. They're not this and they're not that. It's kind of funny, that song by James Brown, "This is a Man's World." It's definitely not. Some things are so ironic. But I mean, life changes. Times change. It's funny, one of the funnier, better quotes I've ever heard was from the movie Life of Pi. When the father is speaking to his family and the kid says that he believes in Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Islam, Allah, Jesus, and everything, and have it all mixed in, Mother Mary and everything. And the father says, believing in everything is basically saying that you don't believe in anything. Because some of these systems and religions vehemently, I don't think I said that right, go against the other religions. And there is no mixing. If you are literally looking at the scriptures that you are upholding and living by. But one thing I have realized over all these things, all these debates and discourses, is that financial freedom on this planet brings you a lot of freedom. So it's either you have a lot of money where you don't have to care if you're canceled or fired or demoted or ostracized or embarrassed, or you can have absolutely no money, and that's financial freedom again. Now, you won't be able to go put your head on a nice fluffy pillow inside of a nice warm house, but you do have financial freedom because you won't owe anybody anything. Now, of course, you can decide what you'd rather, but the point is, in between those two things, between seriously rich or seriously poor, you owe somebody something. When you don't have enough money to sustain your own life without depending on money or finances in any way from anyone else, or any kind of numerated value, I guess. But when you don't have anything, again, you don't really owe anybody anything. You just don't have anything. And then you're trying to find food, I guess, and shelter and clothes and whatever else. But in all the initiatives that people would come up with on how to help these people and how to help those people, I realize more than everything, money talks in this world. Money talks. Money talks. You can say whatever you want. You can say, I want to do this and I want to do that. But do you have money to back it up? To pay the fees, to pay the rental, to pay the ownership, to pay the staff, to pay for the products, to pay for the services. It goes on and on and on and on. Yeah, we aren't treated right. We're going to build our own schools. Where are you getting the money from? They say men are useless. Men don't do this. Men don't do that. But what society are you literally building without men? What buildings are you building without men? What cars are you designing and building without men? What roads are you fixing without men? What bridges are you making without men? But yet, men are less in so many people's eyes these days, and they're ticked off when men have had enough of being ostracized and put down and treated like the dummy of the family. Okay. Should be enough. For my first time listeners and my last time listeners, I'm not always belly aching or ranting about issues. Sometimes I'm just cool and talking everything. And it was relatively cool, I guess, in that way. But I guess I just had to get a couple things off, you know? Anyhow, this is MCM. Remember, podcast is called You're Probably Right. You are welcome in my house anytime. Anyhow, I'll see you or I'll talk to you again. Peace out. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 dogs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self-help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.